We have a lot to cover today, but before we do, JP Morgan has teams to support you at every stage of your growth. As former founders who have worked in local markets themselves, the bankers at JP Morgan bring deep sector knowledge and lived experience to their clients. JP Morgan can help you navigate complexity with confidence, backed by real-world insights and an entrepreneurial perspective. Get what your startup needs now at jpmorgan.com/grow-without-limits. JP Morgan is the bank of the innovation economy. And welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast, where we explore financial services together with an eye on technology, innovation, emerging models, and changing expectations. I'm Tearsheet Editor-in-Chief, Zack Miller. And we've been covering AI and financial services, I'd say, for about 18 months now. Chatbots, generative AI, fraud detection models. But something fundamental is changing. We're moving beyond AI as a tool that assists humans to AI as an actor that takes action on our behalf. Agentic AI isn't just a research product, it's live. Capital One is AI agents helping customers buy cars. Visa's letting AI agents spend your money. RBC has agents executing trades, learning and adapting in real time to market conditions. So it's already here. The question is, what does it take to make this work at scale? What infrastructure do you need when an AI agent is handling real-time financial transactions at 2 a.m.? How do you architect for reliability when there's no human in the loop? My guest today is Kevin Levitt, who leads global business development for financial services at Nvidia. Before Nvidia, Kevin spent years inside fintechs like Credit Karma and Roostify, and at Nvidia, he's working with firms like Capital One, Visa, and RBC as they deploy agentic AI in production, not just pilot programs, but actual live systems processing real transactions. We're digging into the case studies today, the computational demands of multi-agentic systems, the security challenges when agents control money, and what financial institutions need to be thinking about now. Nvidia's Kevin Levitt is my guest today on the Tearsheet Podcast. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks, Zach. Great to be with you.
I'm excited to be talking about it because there hasn't been a podcast, literally, I'm saying this, like in the past 18 months where AI has not been either the focal point of the conversation or certainly an important part of it. But before we jump into that, I want to hear about your past experiences, say like at Credit Karma and Roostify, and like what you've learned there and how your experiences there, what you pulled into your job today, and how that impacts how you look at infrastructure.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So I've kind of found myself over the course of my career, always acting at the intersection of data, technology, and financial services. And it's been a great fit because I don't think there's an industry more predicated on manufacturing intelligence from data than financial services. Certainly, that's the secret sauce that every bank, every asset management firm, every payments firm has is their data. And so, my experience within fintech has led into this, opportunity within Nvidia. You've talked about the past 18 months. Certainly, it's been a priority for us much longer than that. But, the amount of demand and opportunity that we're seeing within financial services is tremendous. It's one of the largest industries within Nvidia, one of the fastest growing, and that's because everybody sees the opportunity for machine learning, deep learning, and of course, the theme of today, agentic AI, to create outsized returns in the context of banking, payments, trading, insurance, et cetera.
And how much of that growth is push versus pull? Like, are your customers coming to you saying, hey, we have case A, can help us get there? And how much of it is sort of you guys leading the way, given what you're seeing across, all industries?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely coming from the industry. I mean, we certainly are always out in the marketplace with thought leadership, et cetera. But the demand is extraordinary. We're hosting at our executive briefing center in Santa Clara, which is our headquarters, probably 2 to 3 executive teams a week from financial services companies. And it's not a matter of use case identification. That's really one of the challenges in the context of AI for financial services is that the leaders today are operating against hundreds of use cases. It'll be thousands in the near future. And they're looking for guidance and help with prioritization, as well as how to build, enterprise AI factories to support AI development, moving into production across every line of business, because we see that artificial intelligence is touching every function and every business across financial enterprises.
Can you explain what you mean by AI factories?
Yeah, of course. So an AI factory powered by Nvidia's full stack platform is everything from the underlying infrastructure, which we're well known for, whether that's GPUs, certainly the networking that allows the servers to be interconnected at high speeds, to really act as a single data center unit, if you will, to do all of this large language model, generative AI training, as well as, of course, agentic AI. Reasoning and certainly inference. On top of that infrastructure layer is the platform software that helps maximize utilization of that infrastructure. In the context of enterprises, it's really focused on NVIDIA AI Enterprise, which is our software suite that includes toolkits and application frameworks and blueprints to help developers build and deploy AI-enabled applications at scale. And then at the very top is the individual sort of software development kits that allow the developers to build and deploy AI capabilities faster and have those operations be more productive and generate ROI for the firm. So it's really kind of those three layers in terms of the infrastructure, the platform software, and then the application frameworks and SDKs that sit on top to help developers build and deploy AI-enabled applications at scale.
And before we move into, I have some questions about what some of your customers are doing with the technology, but you said that financial services is one of the biggest industries within Nvidia. I'm kind of curious how you see the human capital capabilities within financial services, how that benchmarks against other industries. Like how ready technologically, talent-wise, are financial services companies, and is there a spectrum that you're seeing?
Yeah, there is a spectrum. The largest banks in the world are more than ready. They're building and deploying. They invest in NVIDIA's AI factories. The AI factories are essentially, powering the next industrial revolution where they're taking data in and manufacturing intelligence out. And, these enterprises have hundreds, if not thousands, of developers, machine learning engineers, data scientists, et cetera, that are evaluating, prioritizing use cases and building AI applications to support them. Certainly it's one of kind of the challenges that we see for fintechs is that, in many cases, they sometimes don't have the data, but they have the talent. And sometimes amongst the more medium-sized financial enterprises, they have the data, but they don't have the talent. Upskilling is a big part of being able to tackle the opportunity for AI in financial services. It's a big part of what our team at NVIDIA does. We're very much focused on education and enablement. We have deep learning institutes and workshops on topics that we're running daily at our customers to help them climb the learning curve and understand how to leverage our full stack platform to make sure that the AI applications that are being built generate a positive ROI. That's also one of the myths that are out there in the marketplace is that, is there really a return on investment? Our survey research, our direct client relationships show us that there's absolutely return for AI, not just in financial services, but across industries. And that's why we're seeing so much investment, both in terms of infrastructure, in terms of talent, in terms of upskilling, in terms of building enterprise AI capabilities in banking, payments, and trading.
I think Tearsheet might be responsible for perpetuating some of that information or misinformation. But I think the point that we took was not that it doesn't have positive ROI, but that a lot of institutions are struggling with how to define ROI, how to track it.
Yeah, we've seen, there are two primary metrics. People are looking at cost takeout.
Mm-hmm.
So how are they able to operate more efficiently, and certainly, revenue generation. But there are other factors, for example, employee retention.
Mm-hmm.
The data science teams are some of the most expensive talent within these organizations. And it's one thing to bring them in. It's another thing to give them the tools and the the bandwidth and the flexibility through our platform to actually deliver on their promise. And that's another reason why we see so much investment in financial services is, you have to have these AI factories to retain the talent that you've hired because they want to be productive. And that's exactly what our accelerated computing platform does, is it enables the developers and data scientists to improve their productivity, to get to market more quickly with these AI powered use cases, and to build models that are more accurate and deliver the ROI that the banks are seeking.
Kevin, if you're ready, I'd love to hear a double click on what some of your clients are doing with the technology.
Yeah, of
Maybe we start
course.
with Capital One.
Yeah, no, this is one of those agentic AI use cases that we're super proud to have collaborated with an industry leader like Capital One around. It's a part of their their auto navigator platform, and they have a chat concierge that's agentic AI powered within that service. Uh, the chat concierge is actually a multi-agent conversational AI that is designed to enhance the automotive buying experience. It'll help consumers research vehicles that are of interest. It'll actually reach out to the dealerships on behalf of the consumer to schedule test drives and dealership visits. It'll help the consumer understand auto loans more deeply and what the prices and rates are associated with those loans. So it's a super exciting use case for us and for Capital One because it's delivering an improved customer experience in a very complex consumer financial experience, which is shopping for a car and procuring the right loan.
What's the step up in computational demands when you have multi-agent technology deployed?
Yeah, I think this is just tying back to the step up in compute demands for agentic AI overall. And what we've seen with the migration from generative AI to agentic AI is, of course, these agentic AIs, they first focus on understanding the problem at hand, then they think or reason through that problem, and then they act. And all of that requires compute. And it's no longer just a one-shot outcome like we're used to experiencing with generative AI, where we give it a prompt and we get an answer. The agentic AI is actually thinking in the background, experiencing and what prior frameworks and tools it's used to answer similar questions, and how can it apply those frameworks to deliver the best answer, just like we do as humans. And all of that thinking is generating 100x, 200x more compute than we anticipated, if not more. And this is really leading into an inference at scale challenge and opportunity for our AI factories. Because what we're seeing is that the agents, because the models are becoming larger and more sophisticated, and they're being improved with the bank's proprietary data to deliver more accurate results. And when accuracy improves, utilization skyrockets. And the original financial models that the banks ran didn't anticipate as much demand as they're seeing today, which is why actually a lot of the largest banks are moving away from managed services into building and training their own bank-specific GPTs so that they can lower their costs and improve their ROI.
I'm asking this question for Capital One, but I think it applies towards any of your clients. And I'm curious, what are some of the biggest operational barriers you're seeing from FIs as they move from pilot projects to production deployment?
Yeah, it's kind of like the evolution of all of these technologies within financial services is that, of course, we're operating in a regulated industry. So, it has to go through the requisite model risk management, data governance, privacy, et cetera. So compliance is always top of mind. But the way that we see it and what our clients have experienced is, all of these patterns and processes and committees are already in place because they've been governing other forms of technology, including machine learning, if not deep learning. So the industry is better set up than most people think to handle this wave of agentic AI, which will power not just customer interactions and external use cases, but help the internal employees, which is what, the Royal Bank of Canada that you alluded to earlier, or ServiceNow and their solution with Visa are doing. And they're seeing significant returns because they're able, to move into production with these solutions.
Can we double click on RBC? I'd be curious to hear what they're doing.
Yeah, of course. They're very focused on building a generative AI platform that supports both their research and investment banking divisions within the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And this is leveraging their Aiden research program, which is a suite of specialized AI agents that are helping, the employees focus on more high value AI work or work in general, while the AI agents are handling a variety of tasks, such as generating earnings related content, summarizing calls, and ultimately producing updated research reports. As you know, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of data streams tied to any publicly traded company. Investment bankers have to generate updates to their reports as new information becomes available. And these agents can act on behalf of the bankers and the equity research analysts to take in all of this information and produce updated reports. And it's actually improving the cycle time to report generation by over 60%. And they're able to encapsulate or analyze 10 times more data than a human can. So you're getting, again, more accurate outputs faster when you're leveraging an agentic AI platform like Royal Bank of Canada is.
I want to go back to something you said before, Kevin, and that was around this trend for some of the banks building their own proprietary models, and um, how you see a bank sizing up that build or buy decision. What goes into making that decision?
Yeah, I think it goes back to accuracy first and foremost. When generative AI first came on the scene, there was a lot of pressure for leadership from boards, from CEOs to get to market with generative AI GPT capabilities. And what we have seen is the pendulum swing from oftentimes these managed services to leveraging open source foundation models. So this would be, taking like a Llama or a Mistral or other open source models, combining them with reasoning like Nvidia Nemotron, to then build and deploy AI agents that are delivering more accurate outcomes. And so the idea is you take an open source foundation model, which might be about 50% accurate to your bank specific needs and questions. Then you layer in through some post training your bank proprietary data. And that's going to improve accuracy by another 10 to 20 points. So now we're like 60 to 70% accurate. Then you're going to do some supervised fine tuning, which means essentially you're taking the bank GPT that you just trained and you're enabling it to do specific functions and tasks, such as assist with wealth management, assist with anti-money laundering and KYC requirements, assist with customer onboarding. And then you'll have this RAG database, which is collecting all the new policies and information around customers, et cetera, since you trained the model. And once that is filled with data and information, call it every month or every 3 months, you're going to go back through this AI training flywheel that's going to deliver these more accurate models and give you the right tools for the right problem. And that's where we're seeing so much, and why we're seeing so much investment in our AI factories, is because this accuracy is not only powering new use cases and greater ROI, it's creating significant demand from both internal and external stakeholders.
We ran an article maybe about 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, and we had a thesis that um, sort of where we are in the cycle with LLMs and generative AI is that the largest companies, the largest banks in particular, the winners will be bigger winners. I'm kind of curious from your perspective, like what are smaller institutions doing that may not have the resources that a large organization have? Is there a level of scrappiness that you're seeing that they're able to do certain things that the larger organizations can't do?
Yeah, I think there is. And so, there are platforms and solutions out there for these smaller enterprises, obviously to work through independent software vendors and ISVs that cater to specific functions, so you can buy the solutions rather than build. We see tremendous demand and interaction with our own platform called build.nvidia.com, where developers, product managers, line of business leaders can actually interact with any variety of AI agents, AI powered solutions, from video search and summarization to customer service agents and speech to speech type technologies. So what we're seeing is that every organization is able to get visibility into the opportunity and capabilities for AI. Not every organization is going to be able to build their own. And so they're leveraging, these ecosystem partners, everybody from, global service integrators to solution delivery partners, to these, managed service SaaS providers to deploy AI applications into their business. And it's a matter of really prioritizing where you believe the greatest opportunity is for AI to impact your business. Oftentimes, we'll engage leadership teams from any size financial services company, and they'll tell us that they're focused on a use case that they believe is low hanging fruit, but not necessarily meaningful in terms of business impact. And we believe that's the wrong way to apply AI. We believe you should point it at your highest value, highest potential return opportunities, because to your point, this is where the ecosystem leaders are moving. This is how they're leveraging AI. And there's going to be competitive advantage when there's a customer service agent that's complemented by a co-pilot versus an organization that doesn't enable their agents with these assistants. And so, this is very much on the minds of leadership of every size financial services firm.
So interesting to me because like one of the threads that we've covered over the years is like the move for certain FIs, they're still struggling getting to the cloud, and all of a sudden now we have agentic AI. It's like a total game changer. But I did speak earlier this year in Q1 to a CTO at a top 5 bank in the US. And he said that they spent maybe 70 to 80% of time and money resources keeping the bad guys out. And I'm kind of curious from your perspective, like what the AI powered fraud landscape looks like today versus like a year ago, and where we headed with that.
Yeah, there's been tremendous improvements and investments in this space. Obviously, protecting the financial ecosystem is job number one in many respects. We actually released to build.nvidia.com a fraud detection blueprint that enables any size organization to quickly build and deploy AI-powered fraud detection, whether that's for transactions or other types of cybersecurity threats. And the idea is that you can actually leverage deep learning techniques such as graph neural networks to create feature embeddings, which are multidimensional vectors that can help get more accurate detection of fraudulent activities and integrate those embeddings into machine learning models so that you have the explainability and the pathway to getting into production more quickly. And so, we see a lot of investment in this space using not just graph neural networks, but using AI agents actually to help process, suspicious activity reports as a part of anti-money laundering, so that the human agents can be freed up to do the more sophisticated and higher return work. And there are a lot of companies that are facing consent decrees. A lot of financial services firms that have faced hundreds of millions, if not billions, in fines for not complying with AML and KYC requirements. And this is one of the biggest use cases that we're seeing demand for agentic AI today across the ecosystem.
That makes a lot of sense. I have one more question before we end our conversation today. I've really enjoyed discussing agentic AI with you. I'm kind of curious, and this is maybe like a oddball question, but do you see a particular capability today that may not be ready for prime time that, within 18, 24 months, you'll see the sort of moving into widespread adoption?
Yeah, I think we're very focused on tabular transformers. And so what I mean by that is, we're familiar with leveraging transformer-based architectures to help with generative AI with large language models to predict the next word, to predict the next sentence, the next paragraph in the context of unstructured data such as language. But now banks are looking at how can they take those similar transformer-based architectures and leverage them against tabular data, such as transaction data that might reside in tables and Excel files, et cetera. And the idea is that you can vectorize tabular data just as you can unstructured data. And when you do that and you build solutions such as payments foundation models, just like you build large language foundation models, those payment foundation models can, instead of predicting the next word, they can predict the next transaction. And when you can predict the next transaction, you can see the new transaction that's just been made by the consumer or the cardholder and compare it to your prediction and determine whether or not it's as you would have expected or if it's so anomalous that it might be fraudulent. But you can not only use these payments foundation models to improve fraud detection, you can use them to improve recommendation systems. And so this is all about moving, what we've talked about for over a decade now in terms of the hyper-personalization that's possible through technology in the context of financial services and helping consumers along their financial journey and using AI to power, their financial health and well-being. And so we're going to see a lot of investment from financial services firms in these tabular transformers to build, payments foundation models and other deep learning solutions that do just that in terms of personalization for consumers.
Nvidia's Kevin Levitt, thanks for joining us on the Tearsheet Podcast today.
My pleasure. Thanks, Zach.